This episode, handyman functionality using fewer tools and materials. Well, the other day, I was in the big box store. I'm actually replacing my well-worn zip strip for cleaning out drains because it was debarbed, as I like to say. It had been used so many times it wasn't doing anything. Anyway, I was walking down the aisle, and there, lo and behold, I came upon this drain snake, which we're going to talk about as one of the things in this episode. But I looked at it and I said, man, this is like the answer. This is like, I don't need to buy zip strips anymore. I can use this one tool. So not a day later, and this is a true story, not a day later, Johnny calls me up and he is in the big box store replacing his zip tool. And I said to him, Johnny, I've got something for you to look at. So he finds the same thing, and we both looked at it, and well, he bought it as well. And we looked at it and we said, man, we need to talk about decreasing our number of tools and or materials on the truck for when we go out to do the jobs. And lo and behold, this show was born. So with that, we want to thank you for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is always to save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled Handyman Functionality Using Fewer Tools and Materials. And as always, to help me explain, I'm here with my ever-faithful co-host and old buddy, John.
Yep, I'm here, and I really appreciate the tip as I was standing in one of the big box stores.
It was really very... I don't know. It was odd because he's just like, yeah, I'm getting a new zip strip. And I was just like, really?
You know,
like I just did that.
We both carry those things. Everybody, if you're not watching, it's the zip strips that we're talking about look like a zip tie that's got a bunch of barbs on it.
Yep.
It's just a, big nylon thing, but they work really well. They're cheap. They're like $2 or whatever. And, you generally, it's a one-use thing, and you stick them down the drain and yank them out, and a bunch of hair and
nasty stuff comes out. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So, but the other thing is that, they're not very long, and they're kind of hard to get in some, through a P-trap and things like that.
Correct.
So, I have been carrying around the, kind of a drum auger and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, that thing is taking up a lot of room.
It takes
up.
I
gave my other zip strip to my buddy the other day. And I said, all right. And then Larry's like, hey man, you ought to look at this thing.
So we're going to show everybody that in a minute, right?
Yep.
But before we get that, we do want to ask you to like and subscribe our pages and or our podcasts, whatever your listening choices, if you would. It really helps the algorithms get our name out there. We're trying to spread this word, trying to get all of this information that we put out to you out and get more and more listeners too. If you know anybody that has any interest in this stuff, please send them a link to our show. We really appreciate that. That is part of our goal, is to get our listenership up. We are doing that. We hope we have good content. If we don't, well, you won't listen anyway. So there you go. All right.
Let us know.
So let us know with a big raspberry. Anyway, that's that. With that done, that's a little administrative nonsense out of the way. We decided we throw that in early on because we get a better result out of it, to be honest. All right, Johnny, what are some of these tips? Probably the biggest one is.
Well, I think what we've been discussing on this is, you really got to, master some skills anyways, right?
Yeah. Understand what you're doing.
And understand what you're doing. So once again, the show is really about how can we do more with less?
Correct.
I think and that's where this thing was headed in my mind. Because Larry carries around a lot of stuff. And so this, and I don't carry that much stuff with me unless it's very specific. So, but back to what we're discussing here is mastering some basic some skills. So if you're talking about carpentry, electrical work, if you're really proficient in those, then you can use your tools and other things to tackle multiple jobs. Wouldn't you say that's
absolutely. It's also understanding how to get crossover out of, one set of tools will work for other opportunities as well. So that's improvisation. We're going to talk about that as actually one of these things that we're talking about. But you do have to know what you're doing and what your limitations are. We talk a lot about tools. This is a tool intensive business. We all know it. The biggest tool that you need to use is that thing between your ears called your brain. You need to be thinking, really, right, John? I mean, think about it. Think about the things that you have. Do you need?
I can't, Larry. I can't.
I'm just going to leave that one alone. It's
Let's.
too. Don't throw a softball, Johnny. It's too easy. But anyway, we've got to think, and we've got to be critically thinking. Like, where are we going? Do we buy tools or do we rent tools? Or there's a lot of things that go along with it. But there are some basic things, and the first thing is understand your limitations, your sets of skills. We've talked about this many times, but again, we have to throw it out there as the thing. So. What else do we have, John? There's always more?
Well, there's a bunch more. So when you guys logically, when you're looking at your jobs and things like that, you're going to master what we just talked about, master those skills. I think it's really the planning and prioritization of what the project is. Kind of think through what the project. We did a show on this a little while ago. But that's going to help you identify what kind of tools that you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And we're all
going to do that anyways, right? Yeah. As a secondary.
I mean, in order of events also, right? I mean, I've actually had clients ask me, well, how are you going to go about doing this job? And I sit there and I think to myself, well, everybody knows how to, you do this job. And then I realize not everybody knows how to do a job. AKA we were talking about order of events in building a house, and you start basically from the outside in and from the top to the bottom, right? So you start with, you build the frame, you put a roof on it, and then you weather it in. And honestly, these people didn't even really understand that concept. They're like, I was like, well, you have to protect from the outside elements. You don't do anything inside until you get the outside done. And it's funny, John, there's a house going up down the street that they've had it in the elements for a long time now, and I would not like to own that house. But anyway, be that as it may, it's a whole different thing. But you gotta understand it's planning and prioritization, right? You need to know, what comes first, what comes second. And if you're like us, if we're on a job for multiple days, we might not bring the same tools for day one as we do day two. That's a planning issue. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Do you have anything to add there?
No, that's exactly right. I know that what folks out there that are experiencing this, you're always doing it it's second nature anyways. Of hey, I need this, and this.
Yep.
And you might be thinking, hey man, there's a way to improvise some of my tools now. I might be able to get away with doing different things than I thought with my drill.
Yeah, with your drill or with your oscillating saw, or whatever. There's a whole. We're actually going to talk about some of those tools that have we call them multi-use if you want to call it that. But some tools are designed to be multi-use. Sometimes you can create some really cool multi-use tools out of the things you already have that you might not have think about. You might call it a hack. You might call it just a tip or a trick. But we're going to put a few of those out here in a little bit. I think one of the other things that I wanted to add in here is continue learning. It's back to using your brain. There is so much really great information out there in the world. Just scour around YouTube, scour around the internet, and just look for these various different things. I read probably an hour a day on how to make my job easier, and I've picked up some really good tips. And sometimes it's some of those tips, like I'll give you a really good one that John does all the time. And Johnny taught me this tip, right? Johnny is out taking measurements when we're doing a job and he wants to cut wood. He writes it on blue tape and then sticks it to his shirt so he doesn't lose the tip. And you think that's not a big deal? Oh, wait till you go back and forth inside a house to get the number 3 times because you didn't remember it because you didn't write it down, or you wrote it down and dropped the piece of paper or the little cardboard box you wrote it on when you're coming out the door. Been there, done that. When you stick it on that piece of tape, or don't even take it off the tape roll, which is what I do because then I can reuse the tape when I'm painting. There's another tip, by the way. But that's just, those are just little things, but it's all about, that's a bit of what goes into the next thing we've talked about is improvisation. Improvise. What do you have that'll work, and what do you have that'll work and get the result that you're looking for? So this is all back to using your brain. Use that big tool up there between your ears. That computer, right, Johnny?
Yeah. Yeah,
We're
it's
laughing
getting
about other things,
it's
folks.
not, yeah,
You're
in my case it's not getting faster, it's getting slower.
the computer process.
Yeah, I'm going in reverse of everything.
It's slowing down a little bit. So
But I think at this juncture is that there are specific tools that are made for specific jobs.
yes,
So when you're planning and prioritizing, like Larry said, maybe on day one we bring different tools than we did on day two. But there are specifics that you have to have.
yeah, yep.
And once again, for me, I try to lighten up my truck a little bit that I can do multiple things with the same tools
Or as few a tools
or
as
the
possible.
materials.
Yeah,
Okay.
and same thing with materials, right? Because certain materials do a bunch of different things. So
Right. Otherwise, you find yourself so jammed up with all kinds of stuff in your vehicle. It's well, number one, it's hard to find. Number two, you're lugging around a lot of weight and money.
Johnny,
So,
I'm not going to let you in my truck anymore if you're going to bash me.
oh my God,
So, folks,
I
I have to throw it out there. I drive a Nissan NV 2500 high roof truck. Right, this is a 3/4 inch panel van that I can stand up in. I'm 6'4". And I've loaded it full of boxes. And basically, I've done this because I do not have a garage. My garage exists in my truck. So all of the things, almost all of my tools, with a few exceptions, almost all of my tools are in my truck. And they are well organized, but it is difficult. I'll tell you what I get. You remember playing the game when you were a little kid where you move the squares around the boxes to try to get everything lined up? That's what I have to do with boxes in my truck to get to things. So I have a plumbing box. I have a
yeah,
tool.
like Tetris.
Yeah, like Tetris. It's basically, yeah, it's the updated version of Tetris. I have to move this stuff around to get at anything. And folks, I got to tell you, some days, especially when it's raining and you're trying to, because you move some of the stuff outside, it's like, this really is, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah,
So,
sucks.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I mean, it works for me, but I have an extraneous set of circumstances. John, on the other hand, works out of an SUV, and so he can't carry all the things that I carry with him. So he loves when we go on jobs together because he's, hey, Larry, do you have that? And he already knows the answer to that. I'm like, yeah, I'll find it.
And in that case, that is a specific tool that is made for a specific job.
Correct.
So we can get into that. When we're talking about things like that, is like a miter saw.
Yes. Yes.
You're not going to be able to replace a miter saw with do multiple things with a miter saw. I mean, it's meant for what it's meant for.
It's meant for highly precise cuts. And yes, I know there's going to be people out there saying, I could do that with my circular saw. And I'm like, yes, I know you can. But in general terms, if you have to run a bunch of trim and you want it done right, you're going to need to carry a miter saw.
Yeah, I envy the guy who can, do crown molding with a handsaw.
I'm right there with you. Absolutely right there with you. But this dude, this handyman is not that guy.
Yeah. So it's things like that and other types of saws that were made for specific, tasks.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's funny. We're talking about what's the one saw that's not in my truck, John? My miter saw.
Yeah.
Because it's big and it's bulky and it's also heavy, but it takes up a lot of space and I don't use it enough to warrant it being on the truck all the time.
And that's another tip. That's my strategy, is that's why when I get into a job, I always ask people if they can tell me pretty precisely what is going on, send me pictures, things like that. So if I have to bring a miter saw, I can do that.
Yep.
But generally I can show up and do a lot of things with what I already have.
Yes.
And yes, a circular saw that can be used for a bunch of stuff, but it's really meant for, one thing. But
I've done framing with it, John. I really like framing.
Oh, yeah.
I love framing with my miter saw because I can forget the quarter-inch rule. It's right down to 16th being done, tight fits, but not what we do all. Not the typical.
Right.
The typical thing. But that's a good example of a tool that you're not going to get around. And it's not really a great multi-use tool. And yes, I know you can put a grinding blade on it and cut stone or cut metal and all that. But generally, that's not truly what we would call a multi-purpose tool, such as what, John? What's a really good well, there's kind of the one essential tool I think everybody should have that is, believe it or not, a multi-purpose tool, and that's your cordless drill. I
Yep.
consider that to be a multi-purpose tool. It's not only for drilling, it's for driving, like you put screwdriver
Yep.
bits on it, but it's also for cleaning. So you put a wire brush or a nylon brush on it, you can clean with it. You can put sanding bits on it. You can do, gosh, what else can you do with a cordless drill, John? There's got to be, I mean, there's hundreds of things.
Oh, yeah, a lot of different things. I've got router bits rasp, rotary rasps, and things like that. But this is now gets into the thing where I have what we just talked about there is I've replaced just with just carrying that thing around with some of the accessories. I probably replaced a bunch of tools.
Oh, tons, right? Absolutely.
So
Tons of
so
them.
that's been that's my strategy, right? And everybody out there, I mean, this is pretty a lot of this is pretty logical anyways. You're probably doing this anyways. um but it's always, to me, it's always trying to lighten up things and still get the job done. um
Is this where we
you
bring in
know
the drain shroom conversation? Because it's
well,
technically an
that's
accessory.
so we had we had the versatile tools. We got the oscillating tool, right?
Yeah, well, we haven't talked about that, but yes,
It
oscillating
but
tool is an incredibly versatile
Yeah.
tool with a myriad of different attachments that can go on it, where you can do cutting. You can cut, you basically can cut, I think probably everything but really hard things like stone. I don't think I've seen stone, but you can remove grout with it with a grout removal tool. I'll tell you one of the accessories I bought for my oscillating tool, John. I told you this, but I used it the other day to great effect. I had to remove a lot of caulk, and I bought a caulk.
Yep.
I bought a caulk. There's a blade you can buy that fits on the end of your oscillating tool that's for caulk removal, and I had to do a door that had been put on. I mean, they must have put on 17 tubes of freaking caulk in this thing because they did such a bad job. And I just was like, man, I can't do this. I was using my knife, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't get through it. So I'm like, hey, I've got that. I put that thing on there. Man, it was like nothing,
Yeah.
like knife through a hot knife through a butter.
Yep. You can do it, all those accessories. I know we did
We've done a show
on
on
all
it.
the
Yep,
accessories, and I've got one. I put the sander on it. By the way, the sander on that thing works
works
great. By
great.
the way,
Yeah,
so that has replaced a lot of stuff for me, right there. And I just go, you know, with that tool, I've got all what we just talked about here, all the different things with from grout removal to sanding
yeah. To cutting
to
to
cutting.
caulk removal to scraping. You can put a scraper blade on. Folks, if you haven't played with your oscillating tool and a whole bunch of the different accessories that go on it, you need to just try it and see what it does. There's drywall tools for like cutting drywall. There's there's all kinds of things that are
And I'll
available.
tell you what it does a great job on is Hardy Plank.
Does a good job. Does a great job on hardy plank.
I mean, it's incredible.
I use
It's
it. I
surprising.
use it a lot to cut copper pipe in tight
Yep.
places because it's the only. Again, you got to put a metal cutting blade on it, but it just is really one of the few things that just does the job time and time again. Now, one quick tip too on oscillating tools: if you don't have one of the ones with the quick release function on it, where you can change the blades out really quickly, spend the extra money.
Yeah,
Spend the
yeah,
extra money.
that's a good tip. But it is a tool that you use, that we use. Everything from
Almost, yeah,
outside
everywhere.
to plumbing to electrical to, I mean, everything.
Everything.
That this thing is just, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
I mean, you really need this is a great versatile tool that's going to replace a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it
So
just
spend the money. It's worth
spend
it.
yeah, spend the money. I find the same thing with my 4.5 inch grinding to
Yep.
polisher grinder,
The angle
grinder.
grinder.
Yeah, it's called an angle grinder. That's right.
Yep.
And I bought a cordless one. I have a corded one as well. But gosh, you change those blades out, and you've just got so many different things you can do. Too, if you're cutting tile or masonry, they are exceptional for that as well. So they offer a different way to cut and grind, and you can polish, and you can. Gosh, I don't know what else you can do. Sand. Yeah, you've got sanding, you've got polishing. I mean, just incredible uses.
Everything from woodwork to metal cutting to everything.
Everything.
Yeah, it's another must-have tool.
Yeah, it really is a must-have tool. What were some of the other things we decided? I mean, we can go on. There's a few other tools, but we've done a whole show on these tools that are multi-purpose tools. And so we're not. We can we will we you can we can put this to where you can see it on one of the other shows. What about replacements, John? We were talking a little bit about one of the things in the show you were talking about, and I've talked about it about reducing the volume of size of things that you need, or how can you
Yeah,
replace things?
that's a yeah. So for instance, you this is the thing that we're talking about. It's this little
It's called a drain shroom, and really what it is it's a metal shaft that you hook. It's just a metal like an auger shaft. I guess it's a spring steel shaft, John. Is that what it is?
yeah.
It's a spring
Uh,
shield auger shaft, and if you have an auger, or a traditional auger, a powered one or one of the hand ones, I have a hand one, a 25 footer. But how many times have I used the 25 footer? I Not very much. When you need it,
no,
when
and
you need
it's
it, you
yeah.
need it,
What's
right? But
yeah? I mean, there's the coil of it. So what is that?
it's 3 feet long.
Ten,
It's
three.
three
It's
feet
three
long.
feet long. You just hook it to your
You
drill,
hook it to your drill and you run it just like a
and
drain,
and
just like an auger drain snake. It works great.
and here it is, man. It's this
Yeah,
big.
it fits.
Fits in the palm of your hand.
And it also fits into under like a sink stopper,
That's
so
right.
you don't have
That's
to
right.
take the sink
Because it's
stopper out.
yeah, it's small. It's this thing. I'm telling you, instead of carrying a bunch of zip strips and stuff that's all over the place, and the drum auger and stuff like that, because I think we were talking before the show, is basically how many times have listen, we're not big heavy duty plumbing
Nope.
guys, but how many times have we run into something that wasn't a hair clog in a drain or something similar?
About, I mean, 99% of the time for me, they're hair clogs.
That's right.
Yeah, or
Or
grease,
something
or
sim-
grease. Yeah,
or some yeah, or something simple. Yeah.
something simple, something simple.
Yep. Yep.
That
Yep.
even I'm not doing away with my zip strips, and I'm not doing away with my zip strips for the reason that I usually. So I have clients, and this is not an exaggeration. When I look at them, I know exactly why they have hair clogs in their
Yeah.
drains, because their hair is really long, and I'm like, here, you can have this, because for $1.50 or $2, I'm like, look, the next time, just stick this thing down in there and you can have it. To me, it's not a free
Yeah. Yeah.
giveaway. And I'm not trying to, well, I am trying to cut down my number of jobs on that kind of job. I am, because they can do it themselves. It's not a big deal. And so I still give out my zip strips. But this drain auger, I ran it through the drain the other day. Man, it's the ticket. It pulled all the hair out. It's nasty to clean out, like it always is, but it was nasty to clean out, but it worked great. It cleaned it right out. It grabbed a bunch of stuff, pulled it up in, then you just reverse it and it drives itself out just like a traditional auger. It's really good, but it's 3 feet long, not 25. It weighs
Yep. And it comes in
own little pouch.
its own little
Yep.
bag, and I mean, it's like, but this thing is brilliant, So that's going to do away with something that's been taking up a lot of room. Now, it's not to say that if I have a specific plumbing task, I do have bigger
Exactly.
augers and things like that. But the point of this whole show here, the takeaway is, how can you do a lot of things, and lighten up the load that you have in the cars and or your trucks, and still get the job
My
done.
thing with the drain chute, John, is how many years have we had this technology out there? And it's finally somebody,
Yeah, I'm sure
somebody finally
somebody out
figured
there
out to
had.
shorten it up. Duh.
But you use your drill with it,
Yeah.
and you've got a little power
You got a
auger,
free
and it's
power
great.
auger with your cordless drill. So you're taking one of your other versatile tools and you're making a power auger out of it. And it works great. I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. I was like, wow, this is a game changer. And I think it was less than $20. So that was the other.
It was like 15
Yeah.
bucks.
So I'm hedging inflation, John. Um, but yeah, so it's so well worth the spend, because you will use it, and trust me, from us doing this a lot, we know what we use. I do that a lot also with materials, right? So I tend to only
Yes.
buy one or two types of, like, for example, 3-inch screws. I generally buy exterior. Why? Because they'll work interior as well.
Yep.
If I'm doing a big job where I've got a lot of interior screws, yes, I will go buy, for cost savings. I'll go buy. But when I'm carrying the stuff that's in my tool belt, because folks, I carry a few screws with me all the time in my tool belt. I carry 3-inch exterior grade screws, because I don't have to go back to the truck, and I can pound screws through. if I need a 3-inch screw. And I also carry small drywall screws for the same
That's right.
reason, mostly for interior. And then but these are the things, same materials. We talked about caulk earlier. You don't need to carry the various, 4 or 5 different types of caulk. You really don't. You can get away usually with 2. And you just need to kind of understand what the scope of your job is and understand how much of these materials do you use on a regular basis. I use 3-inch screws enough that I need them on the truck. I carry 3 types of caulk. Well, I carry 2 types of caulk and a glue. It's technically caulk is glue and glue is a caulk, but I carry a true polyurethane glue as well. But I just buy the best stuff I can buy because the number of times that I use it is so limited, and it crosses over to everything, so it works on everything. I might as well just carry one instead of carrying 8. There's so many choices that's it. That's part of it. So.
Yeah, and I was saying, the one thing that I do, once again, it's trying to open up some space for myself. Is listen, if I have to do a drywall job, and I understand that, then I bring all my big drywall boxes and
Right.
stuff with all my stuff.
Right.
Okay, boom, I got that. But with me all the time, I just have little baggies of drywall mud. Powdered, hot mud, right?
Johnny, all this time
So
I thought that was cocaine. What the heck?
yeah, I was waiting to get stopped by the cops or something, right? Here, you taste it. So I always bring in little baggies, and I just mix. Somebody's got a hole in the wall, and it's a secondary thing. I'm not there for
Right.
that, but I find it, and I said, hey man, I can fix that, and I always have the plastic little, knives and stuff with me, and just pour some water in the baggie, knead it up, and mix it, and now I got enough mud to do a whole bunch of stuff, and throw the whole thing out.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
And away you go.
And
and you repack your
yeah,
baggie
and
for the next day.
I'm not bringing, yeah, right. I'm not bringing 50 pounds
Yep.
of, dusty stuff with me all the
Yep.
time. So,
So
you might want to consider that.
yeah, these are so folks, these are a lot of things we talk about, a lot of these issues. Like we've even talked about that drywall thing before, because I think we did that in our drywall show, but anyway, or our drywall shows in multiples. But these are just some of the little tips and tricks that we talk about on the Handyman Pros radio show all the time that just help you become more efficient. And we have, hundreds of shows, and we're not trying to we are trying to self-promote, I'm not going to lie. But these are the things that we want to pass on because we find these things to be really valuable to ourselves when we're out there in the field. This is kind of one of the great differences in this show versus some of the other ones, not all, but some of them, is that we do this for a living. We do this work every week. We're out doing these things, and most of our shows actually come from ideas we get in the field. And with that, John, is there anything else?
I don't have anything else. I hope, this kind of got the point across that, kind of improvise and, adapt your tools and plan it out, and you'll find yourself becoming more efficient with what you have.
Johnny, the last time I was on the spaceship, they told me something. They said, the ray that we beam you up with? And I said, yes. They said,
Yeah.
that's a death ray also, so be good.
Be good.
And I said,
No, I thought you were going to talk about some kind of tool that they were using.
Yeah,
okay, but I guess you'll save that for your book.
I'll save that.
So
yes. Save that.
All right.
All right, folks. If you enjoy this craziness we call the Handyman Pros Radio Show, and you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. And we do respond to all of our emails. In fact, we get some good show ideas from our emails, so please do. And we always respond. It might take us a little while, but we always do respond. We do have a Facebook page out there. It's @Handyman Pros. We're getting some good stuff out there, and we post some relevant material all the time on that. What else we got, Johnny? Is there anything else?
Our YouTube.
Oh, that's right, YouTube.
Our YouTube
Yeah,
page.
duh.
Okay.
YouTube.
Our YouTube channel. And I think that's it, Larry. And I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you next time on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.